Hello there. There's something which tickled my fancy, I should say, my curiosity. Following various, you know, YouTubers, preppers and stuff like that. And I came across this item. New York City, or I should say New York State, has transmitted on the emergency band. I don't know whether it's a few days ago or not. Advice and tips how to act in a nuclear war, nuclear attack, basically. Let's say, stay inside, stay tuned, and all that rubbish. You must think during the 1950s and 60s, these nuclear drills by the civil defence was pretty common, especially in schools, at work, because it was the beginning of the Cold War and tensions were really sky high with Russia. Because in 1949, the Russians they developed their first nuclear bomb, and in 1961, the first hydrogen bomb tested, and we're talking about 40 megatons of power, destructive power, which was tested. Um, I know a little bit something about on you know nuclear weapons in case of nuclear attacks. I'm not an expert, but I know for sure if there is a nuclear attack on a city, for example, there won't be enough time to warn the civilians to evacuate. If you warn them, chaos and anarchy will reign, and you just to make it more worse. Because there are no plans for evacuation for civilians in such event, only for government members of whatever country on your side, parliamentary senators, ministers, prime ministers, whatsoever. There is evacuation plan for them, and there is a thing which sites where they have to go to top secret, only they know themselves. Civilians is not possible because there ain't no time, and it just only create panic. Governments only think for themselves. It's not said you'll be attacked by a classical nuclear bomb. There's various types. There's tactical, strategic, depending on the yield, how it's detonated, and so on. You got those dirt bombs, which are filled up with radioactive substances from the exhaust fuel rods from nuclear power stations, which are more radioactive than a pure plutonium uranium bomb. Plus, on the top of that, you have EMPs devices, electromagnetic pulses. If that gets detonated in the high atmosphere, the electromagnetic pulses will destroy every single electronic circuit or electrical supply system, and that radius of explosion. Practically, the area will go back to the Middle Ages. Anything which is electrical don't work in that radius. And that is more likely an event with hypersonic missiles, which the Russians and the Chinese have. The Americans were experimenting as well, but they're really behind in that technology because they based all that technology on conventional weapons and bases and sophisticated hardware. While Russians, they invested 20 years upgrading their nuclear hardware, which is pretty sophisticated, and they can launch the nukes from the submarine. anywhere in the world. They can get close enough and they can fire it. And with the new class of nuclear submarines, Belgor, I believe so, they say it's undetected because it goes so deep, in depth, and practically it's impossible to detect it with traditional detection systems, sonar or whatever. And they say it has such a destructive power on board with those missiles that can create a tsunami. A tidal wave so high it can wash away everything in its path. So they talk about nuclear winter. Nuclear weapons, depending on how many they're used, could have effect on the Earth's climate. Could we go back to another ice age or not? But it's demonstrated in such so-called nuclear winter temperatures will drop. And there's another thing. Americans government protocol regarding fronting such events. If they are victims of attack of enemy state, whatever it is, nuclear power, they shall absorb the attack. They shall not retaliate because it's presidential protocol which states it. And I don't think who's going to nuke you is going to play clean. They just want to destroy you at any costs. But mind you, targeting military objectives, it could be American bases. No, sorry, it could be military bases, airports, or where there are warships anchored on the bay as well. And another thing is American nuclear Pearl Harbor. You probably heard about the original Pearl Harbor. What happened is practically nuclear Pearl Harbor is all the military nuclear forces are parked outside various bases. In case of a strike, all those military hardware would be destroyed. They're like sitting ducks. It would have been better if they would hide it, move around these planes. They're sitting ducks, B-52s and another type of bombers which carries these nukes. So the Russians are superior in nuclear technology because they're more advanced, more deadly, more precise. Americans, they are still at the ages of the last minute man, but they are developing more upgraded devices. But the last launch which they done was a total disaster. Their test flight. They got a lot of catching up to do. And mind you, Europe is a sitting duck. If Russia or any type of superpowers decide and uses nuclear weapons,